What were your specific goals as you came on board?
Well, I wanted to ensure that we, first of all, got this clearly across to everyone, the fact that we had to work together on this, that it was an issue of shared goals and shared responsibilities. And that was going to require major change, particularly with respect to investigators, because they were going to have to better understand what their responsibilities were. It was going to require a greater effort on behalf of the administration and the leadership at institutions and all that to understand that their assurances were not just pieces of paper, that they were commitments that had to be fulfilled. It was going to require new education, both for investigators and members of the IRBs, as well as research participants. People who would be the subjects of research needed to understand the process, and we needed to ensure that we had a system that took advantage, where possible, of better technology, simplified policies and procedures. We wanted to streamline things in order to use our limited resources more wisely. So we designed the office to be able to do those things. We created the federal-wide assurance, which instead of having, believe it or not, prior to OHRP, every agreement between the government and an institution was individually crafted and negotiated. Okay, that's for hundreds, thousands of institutions, both in the U.S. and abroad. That consumed 70% of the resources of OPRR. So that's wrong. We need to be redirecting those resources. And why do we need to do it different every time? They all come out to be basically the same. Let's just have a standard assurance, and we'll use it for everybody. Okay, because all it is a simple promise. If we're going to do research, take the money, we're going to do it right. And that means we're going to do these things. And so we did that. And it wasn't easy to do, but we did that.
What were the challenges to doing that?
Well, the challenge was that in order to, because of the so-called common rule, OHRP was at HHS, of course, as was the FDA and the NIH and others. But the common rule, in fact, had been adopted and incorporated into the individual codes for more than 20 federal agencies. So there's the Department of Education, the Department of Veterans Affairs, the Department of Environmental Protection, all of these. They all had incorporated this, but none of them were completely happy, with all of the provisions. And so it took Joan Porter, who actually managed to get this done, years and years and years. We've written about it. I'm sure you'll be interviewing Joan on this. It was very, very difficult. And so because she had to work all these compromises through the multiple agencies, anytime that anything would be done that might change anything relevant to all of these agencies was automatically going to meet with resistance. But we were very fortunate. In addition to being the head of OHRP, I also chaired the federal-wide Committee on Human Research Protections, which actually was based at the White House through the Office of Science and Technology Policy. And we used that body, I think, very effectively to explain to all of the agencies what we were doing and what it was all about. It was a challenging process, but it was ultimately done, and I think for the most part it's worked reasonably well, although it's had some unforeseen consequences that have been unfortunate as well.
Such as?
Such as. Prior to the federal-wide assurance, most of the major academic institutions simply agreed as a matter of principle to apply all provisions of the HHS regulations, which included the multiple subparts of that regulation, to all of the research that was done at the institution, no matter who it came under. Now, that's a sensible position. If you're going to do research with human beings, you do it the same way for all of it, right? But in order to be able to get this new federal-wide assurance through the multiple agencies that were there, it was necessary to provide an option for them not to do that. So that if you were at the Department of Education, you didn't have to apply the HHS regulations because they didn't think that they were directly applicable. Similarly, for an institution, they were concerned that if they made an assurance that OHRP were to restrict in some way, then it would impact all of their research rather than just the research that was funded by the government or supported by the government in some way. And to me, it's really heartbreaking and almost disgusting, frankly, that institutions would, what the nomenclature today is, uncheck the box and say, no, we're going to limit the application of these principles and regulations to only NIH-funded or supported research. So we're going to exclude FDA research. We're going to exclude independently funded research. That, to me, is very unfortunate, unexpected development that came from this process. And it's one of the things that, frankly, needs to be addressed today. We need to have a uniform system in which we recognize that all research that's going to be done with human beings should be done right, and in accordance with the principles as well as the appropriate regulatory requirements. And so we'll just have to see what transpires.